This gospel today could be called the Gospel of the Fox and the Hen. It's an odd one. Those images are not ones that are used frequently in the Gospels. But it reminds us of the kind of language that Jesus spoke. That when he refers to Herod as a fox, we know exactly what he meant, because he meant exactly what we mean when we call somebody a fox. You know, kind of deceitful, tricky, and mean. And it may be not fair to foxes to say that, but at least he uses the word in the same way that we would. Or this image of the hen with the chicks underneath her wings. It's just an earthy image, and that's the kind of language that Jesus spoke. He talked about a lot about planting gardens and growing things, putting seeds in the ground, getting the good servants to do something and the bad servants don't do it. Yeast that you put in the bread, really everyday stuff that he turned into the language of his ministry. There's something lovely about that. And we are, in fact, right in the middle of his ministry at this moment in the gospel. We are on that journey that he began a few weeks ago towards Jerusalem. And this journey was a fairly long journey. And he moved through it at a fairly pointed but not rushed pace. You remember that he was up in Caesarea Philippi a few weeks ago, and he asked his disciples who they thought he was, and Peter said he was the Messiah. And then he says, well, we're going to Jerusalem, and I'm going to be arrested and killed, and rise again on the third day. And then right after that, they go up a mountain, and there's the transfiguration. And then they come down the mountain. Right after that, Luke tells us, he turns his face towards Jerusalem. And that takes place in the 9th chapter of Luke. And the path to Jerusalem takes him for 10 whole chapters thereafter. He doesn't get to Jerusalem until the 19th chapter. So we can't think of this as being a rushed trip. We can think of it as being a focused one, because he speaks of Jerusalem several times over and over again. Just before this passage that we've heard today, it says, and he made his way through the towns and villages on his way towards Jerusalem. So you can imagine this as a fairly direct trip that he took. It's a trip of maybe 100 miles. And so you can figure out how long that might have taken him. The thing about it is that what happens on this trip for this long time is what we know of his ministry. Yeah. That is, he's walking along from towns through these towns and villages, and he runs into people who need healing, and he heals them, and he goes to the synagogues and teaches, and he has encounters with people who challenge him, and he drives out evil spirits, and he brings sight to the blind, and then he moves on to the next town. And he does this as a pattern over and over as he makes this journey towards Jerusalem. Along this journey, there are at least 95 different events and teachings that he does along the way. That's a lot. So he's busy in this journey. The point is not just to get there for him. The point is the ministry that he carries on in the meantime. And so we have today's reading where these Pharisees, who seem to be inclined to be a little supportive of him, or at least curious about him, they say to him, hey, you know, Jesus, you better watch out. Herod wants to kill you. And he responds, oh, that fox. And he knows about Herod. He knows that Herod has already killed John the Baptist and beheaded him. He knows that Herod is capable of terrible things to his enemies. And he knows that Herod is deeply concerned about him. And yet, he dismisses it. He says, tell that fox I'm doing what I'm doing today, tomorrow, and the next day, and I'm just going to keep doing it. And he doesn't have any power over me. And then he goes on to say, and because I'm on my way to Jerusalem. And then in the second half of this reading, he says, oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. And he issues these words of grief and sorrow for Jerusalem. Jerusalem, you are the place that kills all the prophets. God comes to you over and over again, and you don't live up to your highest calling. You operate on the basis of fear over and over again. Oh, how I wish I could take you under my wing like a hen does her chicks. But over and over again, you reject me. We can hear in this beautiful sorrow that he expresses. We can almost hear the grief of God over God's creation. Oh, I have created this creation to be this wonderful thing, and there are a lot of people of goodwill, and they really want to do the right thing, and they never get it right. On a more basic level, we might say that same thing about our very own nation, and how God might weep over this nation. This nation has such a high calling, how it has such good people in it, striving to be a model for something in all the world, and yet there is this insidious racism and classism that rears its ugly head over and over again, and we just can't get it right. And we might think of God grieving over our nation. It's interesting that Jesus grieves over Jerusalem rather than confronts it. He doesn't express any anxiety for himself about going there. He just expresses this great sorrow for the people of Jerusalem, for their high calling and how they should be. And then what does he do? Well, what happens next is he goes to the next town. Then he goes to the next village. Then he heals the next cripple. He heals the next leper. He goes to another Pharisee's house and eats with prostitutes and sinners. He goes on to the next village, and he brings sight to the blind. And then he goes and teaches, tells some more parables, goes on to the next village. The point of this story that we hear today is that Jesus does not let his ministry be shaken by either fear of Herod or by grief over Jerusalem. God knows that you and I have a lot to fear in this world. We have our individual fears, we have our national fears, we have our global fears. There is plenty to
And there is plenty to grieve. There is so much sorrow in this world that we see before us every day. And Jesus knows both the fear and the grief. But he doesn't let it stop. He goes on to the next village, to the next town. He does the next healing. He does the next parable of growth. So for you and for me, on this Lenten journey that we're on, where we're walking along with Jesus, we might well take this as a model. That the grief that we know, that we could in fact be immobilized by, Jesus is able to grieve, but not let it cripple. The fear that we know, we can see every day, we could let it bind us, keep us in our place that we are. We could let that fear drive our journey. But Jesus says, oh, that fox. He has no power over the work that I'm doing day in and day out. You and I, we are called not to dismiss our fears and our griefs, but not to let them control our lives either. To stay on this path with Christ in the work that God has given us to do, the calling that God has given to you and me, to be the bearers of this kingdom in the world. And to the extent that our grief or our fears steer us away from the work that God calls us to, of reconciliation, peace, love, forgiveness, and kindness, to the extent that we're called away from it, to that extent we are being unfaithful to the one with whom we walk. Christ calls us today to put aside our griefs and our fears and to walk day by day in the work of his kingdom. Amen. Amen.